What is up, you guys, and welcome to the first episode of the Ball Don't Lie podcast, where we talk all things NBA basketball related. My name is Suhas, and my team is the Miami Heat.
My name's Hudson. I'm also a fan of the Miami Heat.
My name's Darian, and I'm a Lakers and Raptors fan.
My name's Tejas. I'm a Celtics fan.
My name's David. I'm a Clippers and Raptors fan.
All right, great. So in this episode, since the NBA season just finished, congratulations to the Lakers on winning their 17th championship. We're going to be talking about reviewing each team's season and talking about what they can do to move forward. In this episode, we're going to focus on the Eastern Conference, and in our next episode, we're going to talk about the Western Conference. We're going to go alphabetical by city, so the first team is the Atlanta Hawks, who finished with a record of 20-47 before the season stopped last year, putting them in the 14th seed. Very inexperienced and young team, but definitely have one of the brightest young cores in the league. So what do you guys think this team can improve upon next year?
So I
Well,
can.
they have their franchise point guard and Trae Young, and I don't know if it would be franchise, but obviously point guard that could be with them for long term. But obviously, like you said, like a young up and coming team, Trae Young, John Collins, Cam Reddish, Kevin Herter. But I do expect a lot from this team. I don't know if this free agency and draft could make them a playoff team, but I think that there could be some stuff to help them. They were one of the worst teams in the East, so I don't know what draft pick they have this year. I'm guessing it's high,
They have
but
the sixth pick.
the sixth pick, yeah, that can get them that can get them someone good, but first step would be the draft, I guess.
I mean, when we're talking about the Hawks, obviously, as you mentioned, Hudson, they have their franchise point guard in Trae Young, and although he may be a defensive liability, the Hawks surrounded him with four really good defensive players in their starting five, with Clint Capella, who they traded for at the deadline, and then they have two young studs in Reddish and Hunter, who I think are going to be really good, or they could use in a trade to get another really experienced wing player. And they also have Kevin Herter, who is a sharpshooter. So, I mean, if you look at the Atlanta Hawks, they're trending in the right direction. And they still have $49 million in cap space. So what I think they should do, they should try and compete for the 8th seed and or make a trade for a wing player using Reddish and Hunter. And maybe in a few years they'll be competing for a championship. But it just depends on how these two wings flourish right now.
I think with the amount of cap they have, they need to go after a good wing player. And with the trade assets, as Tejas said, like Reddish and Hunter, I think they can make a move on someone like Drew Holiday, who is a good defender, and he's a wing player. He can shoot the ball. He can basically fill in all the gaps that Atlanta needs. Or they can also trade up in the draft and invest in their future and try to get someone like Anthony Edwards, or at least get someone like Eric Gordon who can play defense and hit the three ball as well.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, as you said, I was gonna mention that whoever they do get, they need to be a two-way player because of Trae Young's defense, but they do need another offensive player next to Trae Young and John Collins, so that they can produce more while having good defense. Can't just be Trae Young carrying the entire load.
Yeah,
I
'cause
will
Yeah,
say,
exactly. If you look at like the great teams in the league, like for example the Lakers, you don't just see LeBron and Anthony Davis. You see every single player getting into it. Kuzma, Danny Green, KCP, Dwight Howard, Caruso, Ron. Like you see everybody on the team getting some type of points in the game. While on the other hand, like Trey is only known for scoring and not a great player on defense.
I will
um,
say they are getting rid of Jeff Teague's $18 million contract, which will even give them more cap space because
Yeah, it's a
he is a
big.
free agent. So that'll
uh,
help them a lot.
That is a big part, and I think they should
what I
try
was
to
gonna
pursue
say,
somebody in free agency this season and maybe
what I
next
was
year.
gonna say is that during since they have the sixth pick, my thought process behind this is, I feel that they should go wing in the draft because if you think about it, the only three solidified players that like you're confident with them like moving forward into your starting lineup are Trae Young, John Collins, and Clint Capella. Out of DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Herter, Cam Reddish, and whatever wing they might draft this year, I think that they should. One of them is gonna have to turn out to be something. So that's why I think you should go wing, because you're not really sure which one of these wings are gonna be the next guy in the starting lineup. And as you mentioned with the cap space, they have 49 million. I don't think they're gonna go after someone really major. Like I'll read the free agents, their free agents out right now. So they have Jeff Teague, Travion Graham, Vince Carter retired, and then they have a couple of young players in Damian Jones, Scout this year, and DeAndre Bembry. So this team can make some noise if they sign some wings or trade for someone, or even draft really well this year.
Yeah, if they do make any moves in free agency, obviously it wouldn't be after a major player. But about 50 million cap space can get you some like wing guys that can help you round it. Will just have to be on small contracts. But if you, I don't know what they're trying to do. I'm guessing win later. So if they want to get one guy that they would give all their money to, or just a couple other guys, young guys that could take small contracts, that might be their plan, as like they have one of the best young cores in the league. But yeah, they didn't make any moves in free agency I'm pretty sure the only move they made in free agency last year was Jabari Parker and Vince Carter on a one-year deal. But so they haven't done anything in free agency, and I don't not know what they're going to be doing this year.
I will say DeMar DeRozan is a free agent this year, and this could be a perfect spot for the Atlanta Hawks to try and sneak in and sign him, and maybe have Reddish or Hunter come off the bench. That way they get better in depth, and maybe they compete for that 8th spot, and try to get themselves some playoff experience for Trae Young, Capella, and this team can really compete, I think, for like the 8-7 spot, but it just depends on how well their three young players develop.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if you can throw a bag at DeRozan, because he's probably going to be chasing some cash, and he's like willing to go to a young team, I think if they sign DeRozan and they keep Trae Young and Capella, and if they want to win now and do well in the playoffs, I think they should trade their pick to try to get someone else too. I don't think they're going to be chasing the 8th seed. I think they're probably going to be like locked in for top, probably like the 7th or 6th seed in the East if they have DeRozan, Trae Young, Capella, John Collins, that team. I like
DeRozan for that team as well, because if you look at what Jimmy Butler did last year, he took his talents to a young team in Miami, but a team that he can put his DNA on and take him to that next level. So what the Hawks are missing right now is someone that type of player. Teams like that are kind of like on the brink of making the playoffs, or like have a bright future, like kind of like the Hawks and the Magic and teams like this. They need that like big boost that can take them to the next level. I think DeRozan can be just that. Yeah, a vet.
Let's say they do want to save money for that big 2021 free agency class. So we were talking about the wing defenders, like good wing defenders. One of the best draft prospects, Tyrese Halliburton from Iowa State. He's a point guard, but he plays the wing, and he's very good at defense. So he might be like a player they might want to like try to trade up in the draft so they can draft him and then save money for the next year's free agency if they're looking for that route.
I don't think any big name free agents can go to Atlanta in 2021. I think players are looking to win, and they can get a lot of teams are going to be opening up cap for like people like Giannis, like Kawhi. I think he has a player option. Paul George, all these players like are going to be in free agency. I don't think they're going to go to Atlanta. I think DeRozan's their best shot because he wants money, and I don't think teams are going to have the cap this offseason.
Teams are going to want to save for 2021 because that's basically 2019 all over again.
DeRozan has a player option, so I think he's going to take that money.
I don't think so. I think if Atlanta can like promise that they can give him like a better, I think he wants to leave San Antonio. So if they can like match what he's getting, I think he would leave and go to Atlanta or any team that.
Maybe.
I
Maybe.
mean,
Because he's making a lot of money right now.
yeah, I mean, I think, as everyone knows, the 2020 free agency class is garbage. I mean, the best guys are like DeMar DeRozan, Gordon Hayward, and Anthony Davis is. I think just like yesterday, he announced he was going to re-sign with the Lakers, which isn't surprising. But, yeah, DeMar. The problem is, DeMar could be a good fit with Atlanta, but I don't know if, like you said, Jimmy Butler came to Miami and led them to the finals. I don't know if DeMar DeRozan has that type of talent, and I don't know if he needs that type of talent to take them to the finals, but at least to prove that they can that he get them to the 8 seed or at least into the playoffs somehow. But coming off of a 21 season with an asterisk to it, I don't know if they're going to be able to make the playoffs, but another guy, like I said, Gordon Hayward,
he's definitely going to be a player option. That player option is like 30 million.
He probably will.
Yeah,
he was averaging about $32 million this past year. I don't think it's the contract any team would want. So,
No one's going to throw that money at him.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't. I mean, yeah, But I think DeMar could be a good fit in Atlanta to at least maybe get them to the 8, 7, 6 seed. Maybe not 6, but 7 or 8.
Let's say he does want to go to Atlanta. Atlanta would have to pay him more than what his $27 or $28 million play option is, right? And I don't know if they're gonna to pay $30 million for a 31-year-old when they already have this young.
I disagree. I don't think they have to pay him more. I think they have to either match or go a little bit less because I'm pretty sure he wants to leave San Antonio. He doesn't want to play there anymore. So if a team like Atlanta will offer him $25 million, which I think they probably would because DeRozan's not old, he's He's 30. He seems older than he
31.
actually is. Yeah, he seems older than he actually is. If they can if they can trust that he can take them there with Trae Young, then I think they would give him the bag. Should we move on to the next team?
Yeah, let's move on to the next team. Hudson, you want to?
Yeah, sure. Next team is going to be after the Hawks, it's going to be the Celtics. So, Tejas, I'll let you start off with this one.
Honestly, I thought this season was a big success. Quite honestly, the media talked, they said some, they really said the Celtics weren't going to get past the second round. You heard people like Nick Wright say they were an average team because after signing Kemba Walker and letting Kyrie go. I thought this was a very successful season. We saw the development of Jaylen Brown and the ascendance of Jason Tatum. And Gordon Hayward played way better than he did last year, considering he was coming off a terrible ankle injury. And, it sucks for him that he got hurt in the playoffs. But before that, he was in a rhythm. And the lineup, this is why the Celtics wanted to keep Gordon Hayward. Their death lineup is probably one of the most unbeatable lineups in the NBA with Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, Tatum, Brown, and Hayward. That lineup is probably one of the best lineups you can have, five-man lineups you can have in the NBA. Anyways, if going into the offseason, I know they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Heat were a very good team. They deserve to get to the finals. Right now, the main things are Gordon Hayward's player option, which is $34 million, and I have a feeling Danny Ainge is going to somehow convince Gordon Hayward to not take that player option, take a pay cut. Because I think what he's going to try to convince Gordon is he's going to try to convince Gordon if we really want to be a championship contender, we need bench depth and we need cap space. Yeah. And
you're going to have to bring down.
Especially since Gordon Hayward has already gotten 3 seasons of $30 million plus, and I think Gordon Hayward would be willing to take a pay cut. But not only that, the Celtics have 3 first-round picks. They have Memphis's pick, which is 14th. They have their own pick, which is, I think, 22nd or something around there. And then they have the Bucks pick, I know, which is super late. It's 30th. But it's still 3 first-round picks. So the 2 main things in the offseason for the Celtics right now is the Jason Tatum extension, which is an absolute must. You must throw the max at Jason Tatum. he is going to be a top 5, maybe even top 10 player in this league. You have to throw the max extension. And not only that, they have to get a big this year. Seeing Daniel Tice getting bullied by Bam Adebayo and Joel Embiid in the playoffs is one of my worst nightmares. Literally, as you're watching the playoffs, you see Daniel Tice is getting bullied, and we don't have a comparable center to guard him. And even Enes Kanter is such a defensive liability. The Celtics definitely need to trade for a big, and I think they could trade for a big like Miles Turner. What do y'all think?
I actually agree with that. And Enes Kanter is becoming a free agent this season, so he has like a $4 or $5 million.
He has a player option for
contract.
$4 million. Yeah.
Player option. I don't know what his decision will be. I think he's a loyal person. It's just not his fault that he gets traded. But I think that the Celtics could be able to put a trade together for Miles Turner. They may have to give up Enes Kanter, but at this point, it doesn't matter. They would start Turner, have Tice come off the bench, and with Daniel Tice having all this experience from this past year being a starter, he would be a great backup for them, and starting Turner would be a huge upgrade for them. I think that could be a move that they should do.
I was just gonna say,
I think that.
Oh,
Now you go.
So okay. So I was just gonna say to Tejas' point, that he said the Celtics had a successful season. I just wanted to point out. I think that the season was I wouldn't say disappointing, but I don't think it was a success because they did make the conference finals, but they caught a break with Philly. They were missing who I think is their best player. They did deserve to make the conference finals, but talent-wise, they were the best team in the East. Over Miami, clearly they had a lot more talent than Miami had, and Toronto, because Siakam was playing a different sport. Yeah, just absolute atrocious playing by Siakam. I think Boston caught a break that the two teams they played to get to Miami weren't at their best, and they lost to Miami. They almost got gentleman swept. And I just think that because of the talent they had, like the talent advantage they had over all these teams, that they probably should have made the finals. It's not a disappointing season, but I don't think it's a successful season either. I'm
going to say that I think the first thing that they should do is, I was going to say, like Tejas already said it, they have to trade for a center. Even Daniel Tice, I think is like a serviceable bench option, but I don't think he's going to be a starting center on a championship team. I just don't, especially when in this day and age you have so many capable big men. Bam and Embiid were dominating them, and I think when you're talking about Enes Kanter's player option, I'm at the camp that he's going to decline it because it's only for $4 million. I think he can be a serviceable piece. I think he's going to want somewhere 8 or 9 because I think he's still a pretty good offensive player. Even though his defense is a liability, as a Heat fan, I saw every time Kelly Olynyk was in the game, he was bullying Kelly Olynyk down low. So I think he's gonna get some. I think he's gonna get some money this year. So I don't know if he's gonna take that player option.
I don't think he's gonna take.
As far as
I've seen reports saying he's not gonna take the player option at all. So yeah, I think
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. As far as Gordon Hayward goes, I wouldn't be surprised if I definitely wouldn't be surprised if he took the money. It's $31 million, but what Tejas said about him trying to Danny Ainge trying to convince him to take a little bit less, that could also make sense because he has had that amount of money for this many years. But yeah, I think the Celtics are always going to be up there because their core is still very bright in Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart. And I think Kemba Walker, in my opinion, I think Kemba Walker kind of was underwhelming in the playoffs, but maybe it was just a cold streak or something. But I still think he's a very good player on his day. And I think they're going to be up there. I just think they need to trade for a center. That's their big piece. And also, their free agents this year they have Brad Wanamaker's restricted, and with Taco Fall and Tremont Waters, and they have a team option on Semi Ojeleye. So
did you all know that Brad Wanamaker led the league in free throw percentage this year? Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Oh, they shot 3 free throws though.
That's a wild stat.
No, in percentage points, he has 93%. Kind of crazy.
How many did you shoot though?
I think he shot like 130.
To be fair, Curry wasn't playing this season.
That's also true.
Nah, Juan
Anyways.
is I don't think he's a bad player, bro.
Yeah, I
'cause,
don't think
when I
he's
was
not.
watching him,
Something
he
I was
can
gonna
make an
say.
open shot.
Something I was gonna say is that, to be honest, I think they could even get a better center than Miles Turner. They have the young center in Robert Williams. They have those 3 first-round picks, and they have like Romeo Langford. If they want to give up those players, they can get a big center. Like they can get a really good center with those like
Like
pieces.
who?
Like
I think the Celtics would easily be willing up to give one of those young players and all of those first round picks to get the center that they need. I think they're one center away. Like if they get a guy, like you see the rumors about Embiid going to the Rockets. I don't think
No way.
Embiid to the Celtics is anything.
Not
But
possible.
yeah, no, that's not going to happen either way. But if they can get, I'm trying to think of a guy who they can
can
get.
get, They can get like
I think-
Vucevic. He's a
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
underrated center. One of the
That's
most
true.
underrated players in the league. He's
I was
actually
gonna
very
you
talented.
said you said Nurkic.
No, he said Vucevic.
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 yeah.
I was gonna say.
I
The
would
thing
say-
about Vucevic is that Orlando has been trying to trade that man for so long,
True.
but no one's been willing to
Yeah.
take him. So
But I don't know if
That's
they
gonna
would
be
take
trouble.
picks for him. I think they would probably want to take someone else. Probably, I think if
They
you
could
want to
get
get someone,
Robert Williams. He's a
no,
young
no,
center
no.
as well.
I think they would probably have to give up Marcus Smart if they want to get someone like Vucevic. He's an
I will say Marcus
'cause-
Smart is untouchable. Untouchable.
I-
He is the heart
I
and
think-
soul of the Celtics. Untouchable.
I don't think they'll get Vucevic.
Vucevic, I don't know. Vucevic, I think the Magic will be willing to trade Vucevic because they've been trying to do that for years because they have Mo Bamba. I think they're trying to
Yeah.
develop Mo Bamba,
He
but
is
it's
an
kind of hard to
all-star.
play him when Vucevic is starting. So
Vucevic is an all-star. I don't think they just want to give him up for young players and picks. I think they can probably get a better deal for Vucevic. And also, Rudy Gobert is a free agent, so if Boston can
Okay.
take that cap, they
The
can
problem with Rudy Gobert is he is the super max. So you're gonna have to pay him almost $250 million for 5 years. And I don't think
The Celtics-
anybody wants.
the Celtics
I
are
don't-
25 million below the cap right now. So I don't think they can sign anyone.
They
like, this
definitely
year.
cannot.
trade
And
Gordon
especially
Hayward.
with the Jason Tatum extension, there's no way
Yeah.
they can get Rudy Gobert.
Well, you make things work out. I think they should definitely get rid of Gordon Hayward. Like he should definitely be gone. And
They could
Get rid of
use
the
him
cap.
in a trade.
That's
As
what
I
I'm
was,
saying. I think they
It's
could.
that big
I think they could
contract.
trade him for a center.
Yeah, they could trade him for a center with a big contract, for sure.
As
They
I
have
was
that
saying-
money to make it up.
as a Celtics fan, I want to keep Hayward. Like, I want to keep it. He may have not been that good in y'all's eyes, but I promise you that's because he really wasn't
no,
integrated.
I don't think he
No,
wasn't.
no, yeah.
He's not
Yeah,
a
we're
bad
not saying
player.
he's not-
worth.
It's the
Not
money.
worth the amount you're paying for
Yeah.
him.
You
You're
could
paying-
use
No,
him
we're
in a
saying
trade,
that
like an expensive player who's actually good.
we're saying that there's no other way to get a center that's like actually like good apart from trading like one of your players. And like
That-
no one's
I
really
know.
gonna take Romeo Langford in a first round pick for an all-star caliber center. Like
I'm
Miles
saying-
Turner is not
Which
all-star
is why I was
caliber, but
saying
he's still
Miles-
very good.
Miles, that I was hopefully thinking maybe we could throw in Robert Williams. Actually, he's actually pretty good. I think Robert Williams is service.
No, I like
Obviously,
him.
he's
Yeah,
not.
I like him. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. He's a valuable piece. Maybe you guys can use him in a trade for a bigger center.
Yeah, but
I
not
know.
for
So we
Vucevic.
could use. We have 3. I'm willing to throw all 3 first-round picks to maybe get Miles Turner in like.
No, I don't think you need all three to get Miles Turner.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
Miles Turner
maybe
is
not all 3, but like you know what I mean. Like I would have.
14 and 26 should get you Miles Turner. I don't think you need all three.
I would
Maybe
love-
26 and 30.
I would
Maybe
I would
maybe
love
four.
to keep Hayward and get Miles Turner, so that way we have more depth. Because that would have Marcus Smart come off the bench, which
I
would be
don't think that's
essential because
possible.
our bench depth was terrible too last year. So
I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, you guys wouldn't be able to make up the money because Miles Turner's on like a $20
Yeah.
million contract.
that's also true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should
No, I
go
don't think.
on to the Nets.
If I were a
Yeah, let's move on to
Celtics
the next
fan,
team.
Yeah, Hudson, just finish.
Let Hudson go. Let Hudson go.
all right, I was gonna say if I were a Celtics fan, I would want to let Hayward go, and then maybe I don't know. They might want to wait. I honestly don't know because they might want to get another center, but I don't know how that's gonna work. But yeah, you could say you could introduce the next team.
Okay.
All right.
So the
Fred,
next team.
Oh, you do it. You do it.
Okay, the next team is the Brooklyn Nets. And obviously, y'all know last year they were the 7th seed. a lot of their players didn't even like go to the bubble, so like they didn't really like stand much of a chance in the first round. But they're one of the teams that, you know, people are keeping their eyes on as a contender for next year, just because they have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant coming back from injury. They also brought in a rookie head coach in Steve Nash. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Like, I think they're going to be like at the top of the Eastern Conference. The only thing that scares me with them is their depth. I'm not really relying on like any of their. I think the only person that's probably going to be on their bench is Spencer Dinwiddie, and apart from him
Spencer
and
Dinwiddie
DeAndre Jordan.
and, like DeAndre, yeah.
I'm not relying on any of their wings. Like, they have like Musa and like Kurucs. Like, I'm not really relying on them as like bench pieces. But they do have they have Joe Harris is a free agent, and I think he's gonna get paid by another team. So I don't know if he's gonna come back. Tyler Johnson,
I don't think I think
Wilson Chandler.
I think Joe Harris is going to be targeted by a ton of other teams. I don't think he's going to return.
Yeah.
Especially because he's a shooter, so like he has that value. So he specializes in one thing, so people are gonna throw money at him. I don't know if they're gonna have enough to, you know, pay him. Garrett Temple's a team option. He'll probably be back. But Wilson Chandler and Tyler Johnson, their contracts are also expiring, so they'll get rid of that money. It's just their bench that scares me, but I still think they'll be a very talented team.
I think
I was gonna mention Garrett Temple. He's not that reliable, but he might be able to provide somewhat of scoring for them, I think.
I don't think they need him to provide scoring. They have Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert, and they have DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen. I think they have a pretty deep team, actually, and they have like a lot of assets they can use in trades. I think they should look towards getting a defender who either like a shooting guard or power forward or center, preferably a shooting guard. I think Drew Holiday would be a good fit for Brooklyn if they can. Drew Holiday, Oladipo, or Smart. I don't think Boston's willing to trade him, but if they can give like a package that they couldn't resist, I think Drew specifically, they could probably get giving up either Karis or Spencer Dinwiddie, and he would be. They have enough assets to make that possible. I think that would be a good move for the Nets to try to get Drew Holiday, and I think they're gonna probably make the finals next year, regardless.
I know Bradley Beal said he wants to stay in Washington, but if I'm the Nets, I'm throwing Karis LeVert, I'm throwing either Spencer Dinwiddie, I'm throwing whatever I can to get Bradley Beal to pair up with KD.
Yeah.
But Bradley Beal did buy a house in LA, though.
He said he wants to stay in Washington.
I don't really think that.
Yeah, he had this like whole entire like essay speech on why he wants to stay in Washington. I don't like, obviously I have to respect that, but if I'm Brooklyn, like you said, I'm trying to keep Spencer Dinwiddie maybe as a 6-man, but Bradley Beal to me would be the most perfect fit with Kevin Durant and Kyrie. So if obviously, but I think he could be. I don't know if Washington is going to be willing up to give. Unless they throw everything.
They could another player they could also go for is Zach LaVine. I was going to say.
I don't think those are good fits for Brooklyn. They have 2 ball-dominant players already. Kyrie and Kevin Durant don't play well off ball, and then you add another player like Bradley Beal who plays on the ball again.
I don't think they need a third star. Like, we saw LeBron and AD won with like they were like just the 2 superstars. I just think they need to surround them with like
I think they need
depth. Like, I don't
to me
trading
LeBron
Spencer Dinwiddie. Keep going.
To me, LeBron and AD is not the same as KD and Kyrie. If you can't compare, you might be able to compare. I mean, I don't even think you can compare KD to LeBron. And I mean, if we're talking,
I'm not saying they're the same level of players. I'm just saying it's two like superstar caliber players and a bunch of good role players. Trading Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, and all for Bradley Beal. It's just going to decrease your depth even more. So that's why.
But you saw what happened. They didn't even make the. Oh, actually, I'm thinking that they only made like the 8 seed. They didn't even have either players like the whole season. Like Kyrie only played like 10 or 20 games.
He played like 12 games. I'm pretty sure.
The difference between Lakers and Brooklyn is like kicking out. Like KD and Kyrie aren't the same as LeBron and AD, but they're like their depth is a lot better than the Lakers. Like Lakers didn't have someone like Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, or Jarrett Allen, or DeAndre Jordan. Like it was like LeBron, AD, and then like a bunch of role players that like Danny Green underperformed. But Brooklyn has like Karis LeVert is a really, really good player. And
Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie, yeah. Spencer Dinwiddie is a great playmaker. He can also score if you need him to. Karis LeVert's a great scorer.
You guys want to move on to the next team?
I just want to say one thing before we move on to the next team.
Yeah.
Kyrie and KD have two of the most weird personalities probably in the NBA ever. Like, I don't know if this team is going to mesh really well, especially consider what Kyrie did in Boston. So just keep an eye out for that. If any, we have some if they have chemistry problems, I just keep an eye out on that for the Brooklyn.
I think KD and Kyrie are going to work. Actually, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, they're doing podcasts together and everything.
Yeah,
I think they're becoming closer.
Them two together, they're building like some chemistry. Like they've always had that chemistry since that All-Star game. They're talking about it there. They released it. They were talking about since then. Meaning they've been building the chemistry since then. They've been like friends for a while.
Yeah.
I'm saying with like the rest of the team. Like the rest of the team is gonna, because if KD and Kyrie, isolate and take, probably almost 60% of the ball. How's Spencer Dinwiddie gonna feel? How's Karis LeVert gonna feel?
Well, they should know how they're gonna they should have known from when KD and Kyrie signed that they weren't gonna have a role that they had. Do they want to win or do they want to get a lot of points? Like
that's what they were. That's what was in Boston. I mean, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they wanted the ball. They and Kyrie said no, he was gonna isolate.
But Kyrie was the best player in Boston.
But. I mean,
but
I also think with Boston, it's different because like if you look at the list of teams that like were on Kyrie's like trade list, like Boston wasn't on any. Like Boston wasn't one of those teams.
Yeah.
But, like he actually wanted to go to Brooklyn, so I think that's why I think he's willing to do whatever it takes for them to win.
And I promise you, the GM of the Nets definitely talked to the team before signing KD and Kyrie. They didn't just surprise them. They definitely knew beforehand that they were going to make a run at them.
Well, it's also common sense that like you're not going to have like DeAndre Jordan taking it. Like it's common sense that like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are going to be taking most of the shots. So if you're if you're Dinwiddie or LeVert or any other, you shouldn't be surprised if you see that they're mostly handling the ball.
Something I was going to say is also with that Boston team, Jaylen Brown and Tatum were both like really young. So I don't think they understood that they want to win. Like obviously they wanted to win, but
they didn't understand how to win.
I feel like they wanted, they didn't know how to win. I feel like they just wanted they were just in the moment and they just wanted to like, okay, I want to score.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the Nets, since, I don't know, I just have a different feeling with the Nets since with the Celtics.
All right, next team up is the Hornets, and this team obviously did not finish great. I mean, they barely missed the playoffs. I don't even think that they're in the bubble. But they ended up 9th because the Wizards dropped below them. But this team has a lot of work to do with Rozier's $20 million contract, and Devontae Graham is an up-and-coming player. They have the number 3 pick in this draft, so this is going to be definitely a huge offseason for them.
I agree. Because if you look at their free agents, they have Bismack Biyombo is up there. His contract is up, so they don't have to worry about him. But Batum is on a player option. He's definitely going to take that money. I think he's making like $24 million, which is just unbelievable. And then they have Dwayne Bacon and Kobe Simmons as restricted. I think as far as the draft is concerned, they have the 3rd overall pick. I think they should go center. They've been trying to get, great big man with Cody Zeller, Biyombo, but these guys just haven't panned out. They have guards in Devontae Graham, Terry Rozier, Malik Monk. I think James Wiseman would be perfect if he doesn't go anywhere, since he's the best center available in the draft.
I just want to say, I am from Charlotte, and a bunch of my friends are from, they're Hornets fans. So I will say, this team has a lot of young potential. Devontae Graham was in the running for most improved. PJ Washington was just a rookie last year, and Miles Bridges was a sophomore along with Malik Monk, and they have the number 3 overall pick. So, I mean, I think the plan for this team is draft whoever's the best at 3. Hopefully it's James Wiseman unless the Warriors take him. And just let the young players, try and compete for that 8 spot. And they have, I know Nicholas Batum is probably going to take his player option, but they still have some cap space left. So, I mean, maybe you go out and sign maybe a shooter or maybe another, potential young player. I don't know, but this team has to try and compete, or they just got to keep tanking for more young players.
I think Charlotte, their only chance of being successful is to throw a bag at any of the top free agents, like all the money they can give. That's their only chance because no one wants to go to Charlotte. Like, literally not a single soul wants to play in Charlotte. They are known to ruin young, good players' careers and make them like the players aren't bad, but their career is ruined because like Kemba, he spent so long in Charlotte, never won, and went to Boston now so late in his career. He doesn't have as much time as he would. Now if they draft someone, I think like obviously they want to go big in the draft because they have a lot of guards, but I think LaMelo, if he drops to 3, I think he would probably be a better option as a player than James Wiseman because I feel like he has more upside than James Wiseman. So if they want to go that route, they just get LaMelo and try to just hope he becomes a superstar and can do something. But like Charlotte, I think their future is actually very dull. I don't think their young players like Devontae Graham is probably gonna leave when he's a free agent. Like I don't think anyone wants to stay in Charlotte because it's not, the city itself isn't exciting like other cities in the NBA, and also the team itself and the front office isn't good at all.
I will say, just Charlotte as a city, it's got buzz, but it's just not big of a market. So they really don't get any of the good players, which is on the point which you were saying. So
yeah. All right, let's move on. If he doesn't have anything to say, we can move on to. Okay, yeah, we'll move on to the Bulls. So the Bulls just came off of firing Jim Boylen and hiring what I think is a very good signing in Billy Donovan. They have a new GM now, and they have the number 4 pick. They have some good young players, including Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Wendell Carter. And I think their best option going forward is to get a good playmaker. If they wanted to go the route of getting a veteran, but an old veteran like Chris Paul, but then they would have to take on his $41.4 million contract that's due next year, or they can try to trade up in the draft with the young assets they have to try and go after LaMelo or Anthony Edwards. But LaMelo's a very good playmaker from what we've seen from him playing in Australia, and he's a good scorer. So I think those are their 2 best options going forward for the Bulls.
Yeah, the Bulls.
Yeah, I agree.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say I agree with what Darian said. 4th overall pick. I really like Denny Avdija. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but he's a guy from Israel. I really like him, and I think he might be available around that range, so they might go draft him to play the 3. But what I was gonna say is that they have Otto Porter, who has a player option, so he's probably gonna take that for sure. And then they're gonna have to match the offers on Chris Dunn and Denzel Valentine if they want to bring them back. I think this team is trending in the right direction for the future. I just think that they need like an extra like star or someone like that's gonna give them like a boost in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean Chicago is like one of those up and young teams. Kobe White, they got last year's draft with like 6th pick, I'm pretty sure. This year they have the 4th pick, so looks like they got worse unless they got there. I don't know how they finished, but I know that they were just terrible. But I mean, Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, I think everybody in the world can agree Lauri Markkanen got worse when Jim Boylen was head coach. That had to be the greatest move in NBA history, finally firing him. I think they should have fired him after like in after the All-Star break. I don't know if there's a deadline to fire them, but I don't know. But that was a good move. I think Billy Donovan is coming off Coach of the Year and going to coaching this Thunder team that nobody thought would make the playoffs. And not that all of it was him. Obviously, Chris Paul showed out, Dennis Schroeder, Shai Gallinari. But, I mean, he's a great coach. And although it could be he may find this Bulls team a bit different than how the Thunder team was with not as many players, but he may be a different play style than Jim Boylan. I mean, I'm guessing he is because the only type of play style Jim Boylan probably taught them was a worse way. So I think Billy Donovan was a great pickup for them. I think that will help them improve.
I just want to say, before I went to college, I used to always watch UNC basketball games, and Kobe White was one of my favorite players to watch because he was really good in transition and he knew how to score the ball. And I will say they did hire a new GM, I think it was over the season, from the Denver Nuggets. And as we know, the Denver Nuggets are really good at finding really good players in the draft and scouting really well and developing really good team, as we can see right now. So I would not doubt this Bulls team at all. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they made the 8th seed. They just gotta, make a few moves like trading Otto Porter's $27 million player option, and they still have the 4th overall pick. And they have young studs in Daniel Gafford and Wendell Carter. They could definitely make the 8th seed if they wanted to.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So we can move on to the Cavs now. They just came off of being the 3rd worst record in the league at 19-46. Luckily, Tristan Thompson's contract's expiring, and so is Matthew Dellavedova's. But they still have Andre Drummond's $28 million play option that he will most likely pick up, and Kevin Love's $31 million contract. They have the 5th pick in the draft, and they have -$1 million in cap space for this offseason. So, with that 5th pick in the draft, like you said with Denny Avdija, I think that's how you pronounce it, right? How the Bulls might pick him. If he does drop, I feel like since the Cavs lately have been picking point guards in their draft with Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, they can pick him up. But if the Bulls do get him, they can go for Obi Toppin. He's a power forward. What do you guys think?
I think that with the Cavs, I mean, they're they have one of the bleaker futures in my opinion, just because it's like their team is not fully young or fully ready to win. I think it's mixed. Like Kevin Love and Andre Drummond are players that can help win a championship. But then you have these young guys in Colin Sexton and Darius Garland who are gonna need time. So I don't think some of these players, their timeline doesn't match up with the Cavs. So trading Kevin Love is gonna be really hard as it is. Like you said, Drummond's gonna pick up that player option for sure, in my opinion. And I think that if they want to win, this might be controversial, but I'd look at trading some of those young pieces for ready to win now guys, just because they have I don't know if they want to wait until Kevin Love's contract expires and until Andre Drummond's player option expires and then reset. Because trading those two is going to be harder than trading the young guys. So if I wanted to win now as the Cavs, I'd probably look to trade either Colin Sexton or Darius Garland, because I don't think they can work together in the backcourt. They're just too small in my opinion. And none of those guys actually play the shooting guard position. And that's why with this pick, they could either trade or draft a forward, because I don't really think they have forward depth. But I do think they're gonna have to pick between Sexton and Garland for the future.
Can I speak, or are you gonna go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I'm the Cavaliers, I'm not trading Colin Sexton. He's an elite defender, just averaged 21 points on 47% shooting. Darius Garland would be my choice. And that Kevin Love contract, in my opinion, has got to go. $31 million for an average, an above average power forward,
I
I
don't
just
think it's
don't
above
think
average.
that's.
Okay, the Cavs only have one option, and it's not an option for them to win now because they're in an East that's pretty stacked. So I don't think they have enough to trade to even get to the second round, even if they trade their young guys. So for the Cavs, I think you get rid of Kevin Love, you get rid of Andre Drummond, you get rid of these old guys and stack up on picks and young players and hope that the
They
picks
develop.
end up being the players develop and the picks end up being good players. I think they should either draft at 4 or try to trade up so they can get one of the top 3 because the top 3 and the rest of the draft are very far in like talent wise as far as we know. Like LaMelo, Wiseman, and Edwards are like the main like the best of the best in this draft class. So if they can get one of those guys, that would be good. I think they should focus on their future and not winning now. I don't think it's
But
the time for them to win.
if you want
I
to
don't think you can
draft,
trade Kevin Love. I don't
it,
think Kevin Love is tradable as like to a championship contender, and I don't think a young team would want to like. I think you could probably trade him to a young team who'd be willing to sit and eat up his contract until it expires. But I don't think any championship contender will have the pieces that you would want in order to trade Kevin Love because his contract is so huge.
I will
Listen,
say,
I mean,
I will say one. I just want to say one thing here. Um, I definitely agree with y'all. This team has to build around Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton is the centerpiece of the Cavaliers. Averaged 20 points, as you said. But I would trade Kevin Love. His contract has got to go. If they want, they have to build young and try to tank in order to get more picks, and that way they can try to win in the future.
like you said about drafting Anthony Edwards or LaMelo Ball, I don't think they could draft either of those and still have Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. I think they would have to like either trade one of those guys to draft upward.
If you're going from the 4th pick to
wanted
the
to.
3rd pick, you don't have to give up Darius Garland or Colin Sexton. You can probably get rid of I think Tristan Thompson is still on the Cavs. You can
No,
probably give him.
he just expired.
Is it a
His
player
contract.
option?
No, his contract just
Okay, so
expired.
he's gone. So you just got that one. You can probably give up another pick from the future to get the 3rd. But you're only moving up 1. It's not like you're moving up 7 draft spots.
They have the 5th pick, so they'd have to move up 2 spots.
Yeah, okay, 2 spots still. You give another draft
And
pick or a couple seconds.
they already have point guards, so I don't think they would draft up to get another point guard or shooting guard in
Wiseman
order.
is also a player.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If they want LaMelo or Anthony Edwards, I don't think they would draft up for that without trading with Darius Garland.
All right, moving on. The next team we have is the Pistons. They were excluded from the bubble because they had a record of 20-46. They have their key players are Blake Griffin. They got Derrick Rose. Christian Wood is a restricted free agent. They still have Luke Kennard, and they have the number 7 overall pick. They fell from the draft lottery, and they do have $62 million in cap space. So, in my opinion, I think they should let the young guys develop around Blake and Derrick and just tank because this team has no direction. And in order to get that direction, they're going to need more young players other than Christian Wood. And they're just going to have to stack up on draft picks and all that stuff. And they do have Sekou Doumbouya, who I think is a real nice young prospect.
yeah, he was one of the best rookies this year. I mean, not one of the best, but you know what I mean. He was great for them, and they do have the 7th pick in the draft. I don't know if they're gonna want to tank next. I mean, they may want to go for the number 1 pick next year, but on draft site they're projected to draft Obi Toppin if he drops all the way there. I don't know if he will, but they do have the 7th pick, and Obi Toppin is a power forward. He's coming off a great college season. And I don't know if he's going to drop there, like I said, but I mean, they're in need of some players. They're not doing good right now. Does anybody know when Derrick Rose's contract expires?
I think 2021.
Yeah, 2021
ne-
is when his contract expires.
So I mean, next season, Liz, I don't know. I mean, I do know a lot. I do know about the Pistons, but I don't know what their situation is. I mean, obviously they're not a good team, but I don't know what their next step is with maybe Dwayne Casey, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think the
I feel
Pistons
like
are like very similar to like where the Cavs are at right now, with Blake Griffin and Kevin Love kind of
yes, I was
paralleling
gonna
each
say
other.
that.
I think you mentioned Obi Toppin. I don't think Obi Toppin is gonna fit with them because they have Blake Griffin and Christian Wood who play the same position. So I
Yeah.
don't know like I think someone said like they don't really seem like they have a direction. Um
I
so
mean,
it's either like sitting back and tanking until Blake Griffin's contract expires or trying to attract free agents. I don't think any free agent's going to come to Detroit, so it's probably going to be the first option. So I
I
think it just
think
stacked up on young pieces.
I think a guy that they could use is like Anthony Edwards if they could somehow trade up there. I don't think it's gonna. I mean, he won't. I think there's no way he's gonna drop to 7
Yeah.
unless something happens.
No way.
And personally, like personally, but and I don't think with people that they have, I don't know if they could trade up, but like I mean, Derrick Rose at point guard. Props to him for like staying in Detroit, and even like I don't think Obi Toppin is gonna fall. Neither is Anthony Edwards, but they have power forward with Blake Griffin and Christian Wood, and then Derrick Rose at point guard. They lost Drummond when they traded him at the deadline. So I don't really know.
Something I want to say is, I don't know why they did that trade for John Henson for Drummond. And also, Blake Griffin. I'm a guy who loves Blake Griffin. He used to be one of my favorite players. But he just keeps on getting injured, and he's on a $36 million contract. So that's something they should do. Like, they should do something about that if they can. I don't know if they can find, like, a trade or something, but hopefully they could.
I think Blake is a lot more tradable than Kevin Love is. I think a lot of teams could use someone like Blake Griffin. And I think Detroit messed up trading Drummond for the bag of chips they traded him for and John Henson. That was a horrible move to trade Drummond. And I think it's time for Detroit to rebuild like fully. I don't think they should keep Derrick Rose. He's going to leave in free agency, so you might as well get something for him. His value was so low that they offered him to the Lakers for Alex Caruso. That's literally straight up they offered it, and Lakers rejected the trade for some reason. But they have to trade Derrick Rose before he leaves. And I think they should get rid of Blake. And I think it's time for our rebuild in Detroit because it's also, like Charlotte, not like a lot of teams actually, not a free agent location, a location that free agents want to go to. Like, who wants to go to Detroit?
All the NBA players talk about how Detroit's the worst team to be in, or worst city to be in.
But we're gonna move on to the Pacers now, and this team is coming off of a decent season. They made the playoffs, and they got swept in the first round by the Heat, but a heck of a ride for them, making some moves in free agency last year with Jeremy Lamb and Malcolm Brogdon, but they do have a lot of moves upcoming. TJ Warren had a breakout season this year, at least in the bubble, but I think is Oladipo's contract, I'm pretty sure, is off next season. There's been lots of trade rumors on where he could go. Like I'm starting to remember now, they're saying maybe a trade Oladipo for Gordon Hayward, which would be maybe an increase for them, or going to the Heat, but I don't know. I think this Pacers team has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, Oladipo said that he wanted to leave from Indiana. He wanted to go somewhere else, so they're probably going to trade him this season. And if they do trade him, he's pretty – how old is he? He's okay, I thought he was younger than 28, but he's 28. So I don't know if they can get a good deal for him because he's actually a really elite defender. And on offense, he's actually pretty decent if he recovers from his injury. But if they're trading him – yeah, if they're trading him, I think they need to find a good deal for him.
I'm going to be honest. I think there's only one road for the Indiana Pacers. You have Domantas Sabonis, who's an all-star. But I'm going to be honest. There's only one road for this team. Don't say rebuild. This team has to tank for the future.
Oh, my God. No, they don't.
No. I agree.
Because they have no young players. They have no young players.
One at a time.
Yeah.
They have Sabonis and they have TJ Warren, Malcolm Brogdon's getting a little bit older, but they have to trade Miles Turner and Victor Oladipo. They've done absolutely nothing in these past few years. They
TJ
have
Warren's
to get
teammate
rid
is
of them.
Brogdon.
I
They
think
traded
Oladipo. I think
Brogdon.
Oladipo is gonna get traded because they're reports saying that he wants a max contract, and I don't know if like anyone's gonna give that to him. So I think the Pacers would just be better off trading him and let whatever team that he's on, like because he's a free agent after this year, I'd say trade him now, and
That's
then
one
since
more
he's
year.
expired, yeah, 2021. So like he wants a max. No team is gonna give him a max unless he like starts performing like how he did pre-injury. So I think it's best off if you trade him right now because he's gonna want a max contract, and I don't know if you want to give that to him.
I feel like if they trade, they need to trade for like something good because they do have those 4 players. They have Brogdon, Turner, Warren, and Sabonis.
Guys, I have the plan. There's only one plan for Indiana. You trade Oladipo and try to get Buddy Hield, who is also on the trade block. You can try to, get Buddy Hield. And Malcolm Brogdon is still very young, and he's also a really good player. Sabonis was injured this playoffs. I think they probably would have taken one or two games from Miami. And they still have Warren, who's even before the bubble, he was still their leading scorer, I believe.
That's
Yeah, he
true.
averaged like 19 before the
And
bubble.
Jeremy Lamb too also
Yeah.
suffered like a torn like ACL and MCL
Yeah.
during the season. But I think that this is actually this is like the end of Indiana here.
Oh, no.
Oladipo's contract expires next season. Like you said, they're gonna have to trade him. All the trade rumors that we were literally just talking about a couple minutes ago to the Celtics, Miles Turner to the Celtics, and I think
They
that
don't have
tanking
to-
might. I think tanking might be the right
No,
choice for them.
I think Indiana
Yeah.
has a really bright future.
That
And
that
They
trade,
don't have their
the
pick. They
trade
don't have
that
their
you
pick
mentioned,
either.
the trade you
They
mentioned for
traded their
Buddy
pick
Hield,
to
that's
Milwaukee.
actually a very good idea. Buddy Hield would be a good fit for them.
Yeah.
They traded their pick to Milwaukee in the Malcolm Brogdon signing trade, so they don't have their pick this year. So it's
I
gonna
think
be tough.
Malcolm Brogdon is a great
Indiana
player.
was the 4 seed, by the way, in case people forgot.
Yeah. Indiana's a great team. I don't know why you guys think they should rebuild or start
No, I
tanking.
never. I just said they should trade Oladipo because he's gonna
Yeah,
want
trade
a max. I'm
Oladipo.
not
No,
gonna-
he wants to leave as well. He
And Miles
announced it.
Turner. I think those two. Just because you're trading someone doesn't
You-
mean you're going to get something bad in return.
Yeah, you can get something good from Miles Turner. He's young. He's a great defender. He can stretch the floor. He's
they're
somebody
always
you
gonna
can get a
be-
good deal for.
They're gonna be in that range of like 4 or 5 seeds, like in the future. I don't think they're gonna be like 1, 2, 3, but I think they can be. They're gonna be a playoff team in the future. Like for sure.
Indiana's been that one team who's always had that solid 5 seed. They've had it for like the past 10 years, the past decade.
Suhas, move on to the.
Yeah, let's
Heat.
move on to the next team, which is the Miami Heat. As I mentioned before, I'm a Miami Heat fan, and I felt that this season was a very, very big success for us. Obviously, we lost the finals, but I mean, the expectations for this team from a lot of people wasn't really to do much. Like I've seen people saying there'll be an 8 seed at best, and the Heat just grinded out. They certainly weren't the most talented team, but the reason that I'm giving Eric Spoelstra so much credit is because he made this team like have an identity and a system that they play. Their motion offense with Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero and Dragic. I think Dragic is like the icing on the cake because he's another guy that can create alongside Jimmy Butler. Bam is special. So this team is going to be one for the now and for the future with all their young talent. However, they have a lot of free agents this year. Derek Jones Jr. is going to get touted by a lot of teams. Jay Crowder wants to re-sign, so does Dragic, but it's going to be interesting to see like what other offers they get. Kelly Olynyk has a player option, which he's definitely going to take. Udonis Haslem might retire or might not. And Myers Leonard is a free agent as well. But I think the big year for this Heat team is 2021 with the Giannis Antetokounmpo free agency class.
I think
If Bam Adebayo does not get extended, then watch out for the Heat to sign Giannis because the Heat, I've already stated that if they don't have to extend Bam's contract right now, which means that they're gonna get more money in the 2021 class, so they might be able to get Giannis and keep Bam as well. So this team is gonna be very scary to watch.
I think the Heat need to strengthen their power forward position. Somebody in the free agency who can score is Danilo Gallinari. He may be a bit old and a bit pricey, but that is like the third scorer for them that they could use, or fourth. Like I forgot about Tyler Hero. My bad. They can get him. He can strengthen their scoring because their defense already has been great. In that finals, I felt like they just needed something more to score, and I feel like Danilo Gallinari will be the perfect fit.
Okay. All right. There's a lot to talk about. So, coming off a great season, obviously from the finals, Jimmy signed a 4-year contract with us, so he'll be with us. A lot of free agents this season. Derek Jones Jr., I think the Suns and Cavs are interested in him. I don't think he's the player we have to worry about to sign back. It would be great to sign him back, but it would literally have to be on a $2 million 1-year contract, which I don't think he'll like. I think he's going to end up walking. Crowder is going to probably re-sign on a smaller deal, which will be good. Dragic is going to re-sign on a smaller deal, maybe for 1 year, 11, 12 million, something like that, unless he's the starter. And Gallinari would be a great player for us. I think he said he's all about he's going to be on a contending team and not about the money. So if we can sign him to a small contract, that'll be nice. And
Gallinari was actually someone that the Heat tried to trade for, if you guys forgot, at the trade deadline.
At the trade deadline,
deal fell
exactly.
through. The deal fell through because of contract negotiations or something. But he might be someone that we go for. But I think Pat Riley is going to put his chips in the 2021 class.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is that this 2020 free agency this 2020 offseason is going to be what is going to lead up to next season's thing. If we waste money on contracts or do whatever, then it's gonna. I think Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra obviously are gonna have tons of stuff up their sleeves.
I'm gonna be honest. As a person, I watched Celtics lose to the Heat. This team is dangerous on all cylinders, but the moving forward for this team, I would say you got to build up the young players. Tyler Hero's got to get better on defense. You have Gordon. You got to sign back Dragic maybe. And I will say this: if things with Giannis don't go well in 2021 and during the 2021 season, I think Miami might have the trade pieces to get him right there then. They have Bam Adebayo, they have Tyler Hero, they have Duncan Robinson. This would literally be a perfect time to sign or trade for Giannis and not to compete with teams like Toronto and Dallas, for Giannis.
One thing that the Heat and Heat fans should be hoping for is that no team tries to match Bam's contract, because the Heat are going to try to extend Bam's extension to next season so that they have a chance at signing Giannis. So if no other team tries to go and get him, if another team tries to sign Bam, then the Heat are going to I don't know what their situation would be, but they should try to match it. But they're going to match it. They're probably going to match it, exactly. So it would hurt us to try to sign Giannis. So I'm hoping that whatever the situation is, no other team goes after Bam, but that's going to be kind of hard considering the type of season he's coming off of.
Like Hudson said about Danilo Gallinari willing to take a pay cut, he also said he might be able to do it on a 1 million or 1 year deal. And that's also perfect for the Heat because he's getting old and they want to keep their young players and want to be able to pay them. So if he goes on that 1 year deal and it's a cheap deal, they can get him, they can use him as a scorer, and they might be able to contend again.
Okay. And just one thing to finish that off. I don't think Danilo Gallinari is going to go to Miami for 1 year just as a pit stop just so they can get Giannis. I think he has better options than to go to Miami. I think LA would probably be a better option for him if he wanted to go for 1 year. Anyways, let's move on to the Bucks. So the Bucks last season had a very, very, very disappointing season. Almost got swept by Miami, and Giannis just wasn't stepping up in the way that he's supposed to as the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. The Bucks need to focus on literally trading every person but Giannis to try to get a secondary superstar, or if you want to keep Middleton, try to get a third star, someone around Middleton's level. Maybe a trade that came into my mind is to trade Dante DiVincenzo George Hill and a couple picks and try to get a proven shooting guard, or try to get Chris Paul if they don't mind his age, because I still think Chris Paul can perform at a high level. Keeping Giannis is the main and should be the only priority the Bucks have, because if they have another disappointing season, he's going to walk and they're going to lose a generational talent that they will probably never get back. Giannis is their only hope. So, yeah, what do you guys think?
I think the plan for the Bucks this season is very obvious. There's only one plan. Well, you have expiring contracts in Lopez and Wesley Matthews, and you have a nice young prospect in Dante DiVincenzo. But there's one glaring liability in this team, and that is Eric Bledsoe. They have to try and do whatever they can to get rid of Eric Bledsoe for probably Chris Paul. They have to do it to keep Giannis happy. And I think something the Bucks did not have last year was a clutch go-to down line scorer. Middleton is not that guy. Giannis is not that guy either, because he does not have a jump shot yet. They have to get Chris Paul because he's proven in the clutch, and that'll probably be enough to keep Giannis in Milwaukee. And obviously, if they don't keep him happy in Milwaukee, he's definitely out the door.
I definitely agree with what you just said. I was gonna say that too. Like, as a Heat fan, when I was watching our game plan, like, all we did was wall off Giannis, and that basically took out like 90% of their offense, because Chris Middleton is not a guy who's gonna be consistently creating shots for himself. They need a shot creator alongside Giannis and Chris Middleton. If that means trading Chris Middleton, then so be it. But I think they need someone, like you mentioned, a Chris Paul, someone that can create his own shot. Because teams are gonna. It's no secret anymore. Like the blueprint is out. If you want to stop Giannis, wall him up in the paint and make him pass to shooters, or make him pass to other people. Make other people beat you. And the Bucks didn't have that. They didn't really have the people that could step up when Giannis was not doing his thing. I want to see Giannis take that challenge defensively as well. As the defensive player of the year, you got to go guard Jimmy Butler. If he's going off what Anthony Davis did, what LeBron James did when Jimmy Butler was going off, they said, give me the assignment. I want Jimmy Butler. As the defensive player of the year, you got to step up on defense. I just can't see Giannis being a help side defender. I want him to take the challenge one-on-one, because he has the like instincts and like physically the tools to be able to keep up with guards. He just doesn't do it for some reason. And that's where coaching comes into play. And I think Mike Budenholzer has a big question mark around his head, because I don't think he's the right man for the Bucks if they want to contend for a championship.
I totally agree. Talking about creating a championship team around Giannis, like that's their only option if they don't want him to walk. Because if the Bucks can't win or come close to winning next season, he's walking, in my opinion, 100%. He's what did I say? Sorry. Yeah, about the defense. He's also one of the greatest defenders in the league, but for some reason, he doesn't take the assignment like Anthony Davis and LeBron did, like you said, Suhas. But Budenholzer, he says that Budenholzer tells him not to. And I feel like Budenholzer's a great coach, but I don't know why he doesn't assign him to their best player. Like Jimmy Butler dropped that 40-point game against them when the game was going slow. Nobody could score. Only Jimmy Butler is scoring. It was like a 90-point game. He had 40 of their points. Giannis didn't get the assignment, and Budenholzer didn't tell him to. That was a wrong decision.
Yeah,
I want to be straight clear. Hudson, I'll let you speak in just a second. The point I want to make is Giannis is a great off-ball defender. On-ball defender, he doesn't really like taking the task of it. And in most teams, they usually don't like to attack Giannis on-ball, but he really isn't that, targeted at on-ball. It's mostly off-ball defense that he's good at.
No, I think that comes down to coaching. I think he has the tools, but it just comes down to coaching for me.
Mm-hmm. If whatever happens with Giannis and Middleton, I think Giannis needs a better side player than Chris Middleton to be able to contend for the championship and at least get out of the second round. So if, like you said, like somebody said, I forgot, if that means trading Middleton, then do it. To get another guy, I think they would have to have at least somebody. I'm trying to think of a valuable player in the league. Like Giannis needs somebody better than Chris Middleton. I don't think Giannis and Middleton go together to create like a dynamic duo in the league, like KD and Kyrie or AD and LeBron. So I think they should maybe even try to, because I think a couple of years ago, before before there was that Irving and Isaiah Thomas trade, there was rumors of, or I think the Bucks offered Chris Middleton for Kyrie Irving. That would have changed the whole game. But I think that the Bucks are gonna have to do something to try to get Giannis a better partner, unless he leaves to go to Miami or Dallas or somewhere else.
I think if Portland decides that they want to like try and move on, I don't know if it would be a good idea to move on from Dame, but if the Bucks can somehow manage to get Dame, like trading Chris Middleton obviously and other pieces, I think Dame and Giannis, like a good teammate for Giannis would be someone like on Dame's level. I'm not saying Dame, but someone on his level. All right, so the next team are the New York Knicks, and I think we all know there's only one thing the Knicks can do to take away all the embarrassment they've brought to themselves over the last couple of years. The Knicks need to boycott the season and stop playing basketball. They need to release all their players into free agency because their franchise is an embarrassment, and they've had a history of drafting horribly and or getting a bad pick in the draft after being a horrible team in the regular season. So, Suhas, what do you think about the Knicks?
Definitely agree with you. Now, in all seriousness, though, I mean, I think it starts off with the ownership, man. I mean, as long as James Dolan is owning that team, I don't see them like. I don't think he's fit to own any team. Like, forget the Knicks. Like, I don't think he can own any team. With the Knicks, man, it's just developing young talent. That's the only thing they can do now. Like, they signed a lot of guys. Like last year, I remember y'all remember last year how they were supposed to sign KD and all, but then they ended up signing a bunch of dudes on 1-year deals. I don't know. Like I don't know like if they're gonna like attract any names just because of that ownership. So I think their best bet is to rely on developing young talent. Tom Thibodeau is who they brought in. I think I think he's an upgrade on whoever they had before. I think he was like the interim coach from before. So he's going to be an upgrade. They have a team option on Bobby Portis for $15 million. I don't know if they're going to take that. Like I don't know if they're going to I don't know if they're going to let him walk or like accept that $15 million option. And I think that's like the only like major signing for them apart from Mo Harkless and Damian Dotson. But 2021 is going to be the big year for them with all these free agents that are expiring.
I'm going to be honest. You guys are definitely right. But I will say they do have some promising young pieces in Mitchell Robinson. RJ Barrett's not any slouch either. But they do have the 8th overall pick. They definitely need to draft well here this year. And you guys are definitely right. 2021 is the year. They have to hit on a big free agent signing or they are doing absolutely nothing. If they don't get anyone in this 2021 free agency class, I don't know what to do about the Knicks, man. And Dolan definitely has to sell a team. What do you think, David or David?
So I feel like there's one option that they should stick with right now, and that is develop their players and try to get a big hit in the 2021 draft, or 2021 free agency. And if they can't get that big hit in the 2021 free agency, they need to make a big trade. They need to have a big splashing trade if their players can't develop. They need to get somebody big. They need to get somebody who can take their team to the playoffs at least or something.
Yeah, I obviously going with James Dolan. I don't think he can lead this team or not lead this team. He has to sell the team, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Tom T is the guy they brought in for head coach after firing. I forgot his name, to be honest,
Fizdale?
already. Yeah, David Fizdale. He wasn't a good. I mean, he was with the Heat, I'm pretty sure, for their journey, but that doesn't really
Fizdale
matter.
sucks.
They fired Mike Miller, not David Fizdale. Mike Miller was their interim coach because they already fired David Fizdale before, and then the interim.
They fired Fizdale, then Miller, and then now they have Tom coming in. So we'll have to see what that. But honestly, if my life depended on it, I probably couldn't name like 8 Knicks players because I don't watch them unless you're a super fan of the Knicks. You don't really watch them unless your team is playing them. But listen, I don't really think that this team is going anywhere. Their franchise is an embarrassment, and obviously RJ Barrett wasn't the move they should have had. Obviously, nobody knew that. It's funny because now thinking about it, RJ Barrett and John Morant were competing for who should go second pick, and now thinking about it, obviously it's John Morant nowadays. But I mean, if the Knicks went after somebody nobody knew that RJ Barrett wasn't going to be this good and that Tyler Hero was going to be the youngest player to play in the finals. But that's not on them, but it also kind of is on them. So I don't really know what's next for this franchise.
I think you can't judge RJ after like one season. He might turn it around, but
I agree.
Okay, let's move on to the next team though, which is the Orlando Magic. I do live like pretty close to Orlando, so I've been to a lot of Magic games. I know a lot of Magic fans. And I mean, obviously they've been very frustrated with the team. You know, it seems like they're like always like the 8th seed for some reason. Like they're never good enough, but like they're never like bad enough to tank because they do have like Vucevic and like developing guys. DJ Augustine is a free agent. So is Michael Carter Williams, which I think is good because then it allows Markelle Fultz to get those point guard minutes, more of those minutes. But I think the big thing for them, I think they need to get rid of Evan Fournier because after watching Magic games, he has a player option, so they're gonna have to trade him. But watching Magic games and listening to a lot of Magic fans, Evan Fournier is not somebody that's loved in the Orlando Magic community. So I think Evan Fournier has to go. They gotta trade Evan Fournier. I think Vucevic has to be traded in order for Mo Bamba to get those minutes. It's a bummer that Jonathan Isaac got injured again in the bubble. Prayers up to him. But they just got to build around their young guys and completely hit that reset button. Because I don't think – making the playoffs is good, but being at that 8th seed spot over and over again doesn't really get you much because you're not getting a high pick and you're not really getting out of the first round either. Darian, what do you think?
For Orlando, I do agree with you. I don't think they're going anywhere. They're also one of those teams that don't really have a direction. They keep making the playoffs as the 8 or the 7 seed, but they're just getting first-round exits after winning game ones. I think the Magic have to go after a better point guard because they have an all-star center, and I think Aaron Gordon has some upside still. Markelle Fultz can come off the bench. I think Dinwiddie would be a good option for them because you can play him at the 1 or the 2, and he could help the Magic get into the playoffs again and maybe do a little bit better. And if you can keep John Isaac, Vucevic, and Aaron Gordon healthy and keep your cap space open, I think Orlando can do something, whether it be signing someone in the 2021 free agent class, not like a big name superstar, but maybe like an above average player that can come to their team and help them. They can just slowly build. I don't think they're going to win now, and I don't think they're going to win in 10 years. I think their best chance is to slowly start to build up a team to have one chance at a run. That's what I think. What about you, Tejas?
I'm going to be honest. I actually kind of like this team. Watching the Orlando, let's be honest. There are 3 things that are certain in life: death, taxes, and the game 1 Magic team winning. I promise you, bro. When you look at this Magic team, though, there's one player I think in particular that carried this team throughout the playoffs, and that's Vucevic. I know you guys have been saying to trade him, but I think he's the cornerstone of the franchise. You have to, and he's not that old at all. He's what, 26, 27, I think?
29.
29. I mean, even that's not that bad. And they still have John Isaac. They still have young pieces in Aaron Gordon, Markelle Fultz, Mo Bamba. Even Terrence Ross is a torch. I know he's not Duncan Robinson level, but if he gets hot, he's cooking. So I think what they have to do, they don't have any cap space. They just got to stay competitive and build around the young guys. And eventually, players like Markelle Fultz, John Isaac, and future draft picks, they're going to develop. And eventually, they're going to be a really good team in the East. But it's just going to take time. And They just got to, stay competitive. What about you, David?
I completely agree. They have those four big names who are young in Mo Bamba, Jonathan Isaac, Fultz, and Aaron Gordon. And to be honest with you, you're completely right about Terrence Ross. I think it was in the 2018-19 season. He had the second most made three-pointers in the season. Second to Harden or something like that. I'm not completely sure. And also with the Vucevic, you guys think that they should trade him, but I only think they should trade him if they can get a good deal out of it, because his contract, he's on a declining money contract. So he's losing $2 million in his contract per year, meaning next season it'll be $26 million, next season it'll be $24 million, season after that $22 million. So if they can get better players for him, I think they should trade him. But if they can't, there's no point really, because he's their franchise player as of right now. If Markelle Fultz and Aaron Gordon and those guys can't develop to be better than him, I don't think they should trade him.
Yeah, I mean, the Magic have been, I mean, they've been okay, I'll say. They made the 8 seed this year, and like you said, I also think that Vooch was carrying them. Evan Fournier's a free agent this year with a player option coming off a $17 million contract. I don't know if any team is going to want to sign him for that much, so he might have to take a pay cut if he wants any team to sign him. But this Magic team came into the playoffs as the 8 seed with their whole lineup, and then Jonathan Isaac got injured. I think a game or two, or no, Jonathan Isaac got injured in the bubble before the playoffs, tore his ACL. So I think he'll be back better than ever, but he'll probably be missing the whole next season. But they won that first game, and everyone's like, I mean, they didn't think, but they thought the Bucks could be in trouble, but this always happens. I mean, the Magic won game 1 last year against the Raptors. They ended up winning the championship, but the Bucks ended up sweeping them in 5. And just from that, they now have the 15th draft pick. So I don't know how it's going to play out, but I think that this team has a bit of potential.
Before we move on to the next team, I wanted to say that this could be a team for DeMar DeRozan to go to if he wants to leave San Antonio. A young and up-and-coming team who made the playoffs last year and needs that boost to take them to the next level. So don't be surprised if DeRozan Magic.
I think it would be a good spot for him too.
You're definitely right. DeMar DeRozan was literally on the top of my mind. I have it written down in my notes. But the Magic could definitely get him, and it'd be better. It would be definitely an upgrade over Evan Fournier, and so that'd be crucial. Anyway, moving on to the next team, we have the Philadelphia 76ers, who finished with the record of 43-30. And ended up getting swept in the first round of Boston. They have Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Al Horford's terrible contract. They have Matisse Thybulle, Josh Richardson, and a young Shake Milton. They're in the luxury tax right now with negative $40 million in cap space. So this team's future, I think, in my opinion, revolves around 2 pieces: Al Horford's contract and Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. You can pick between the two. They have to trade Al Horford's contract. And even if that means giving up a first-round pick, it's worth it, because his contract is probably, besides Nick Batum's contract, is probably the worst in the NBA right now, arguably. And in order for this team to be great, they have to trade one of Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. And I think that has to be Embiid. If you look at what Giannis did in Milwaukee, what they do, they have Giannis run point forward, and they spread the floor with shooters. This is exactly what Philadelphia needs to do. And I think Embiid just clogs up the paint, I think. And if they trade Embiid and get a bunch of shooters and build around Simmons, I think this is the way for the 76ers to go. What do y'all think, Darian?
I think for Philly, I cannot emphasize this enough. They need to keep Ben Simmons, because I am sure, and I would bet money on this, a lot of money, that he's going to be a future MVP and he's going to be the best player in the league one day. And I think if Philly has to trade someone between Ben and Embiid, it has to be Embiid. I think Ben should be untouchable no matter what. And trading Embiid still isn't a great choice because I don't think right now they can get the pieces they want for Embiid. But they need to get rid of Al Horford and maybe get, as you said, shooters. I think someone like Hield would be useful for them, or someone that they gave up or they let walk last offseason in JJ Redick. A trade that I saw that I think was interesting was to trade Josh Richardson and Al Horford and picks and try to get JJ Redick and Drew Holiday. It is not a likely trade, but it could be possible depending on the amount of trades they put and the other pieces they can add to the trade. What do you think, Hudson?
Now, listen, I mean, this Sixers team has already, depends how they play out the offseason, but they could have already made the biggest move of this offseason by firing Brett Brown and hiring Doc Rivers. He's blown multiple 3-1 leads, as we've had this conversation before this started. And I honestly don't know how it's going to play out. I mean, they can do so many things. They could build around Embiid and trade Simmons to get somebody, or build around Simmons and trade Embiid, or try to trade, like, I think first priority straight away is get Al Horford out of there. Trade him for anything, like a draft pick, maybe put Josh Richardson and Al Horford into a deal, try to get somebody. If not, then trade Al Horford for anything, any type of pick, any type of player, just anything you could get. But they could try to trade Josh Richardson, get something out of it. But I think that the biggest move that they had to do is fire Brett Brown, get a new coach, and who knows, Doc Rivers could be the solution to that. But I just want to hear what David has to say about it.
Okay, so as you guys are talking about them needing to get shooters, they do have the 21st pick in this draft. And if Desmond Bane, who shot 44% from 3 in college, could fall to them, he's projected to go somewhere around like 18 or 17. If he could fall 3 spots down to them, that would be a perfect fit, as he's a great 3-point shooter, one of the best in this draft class. Suhas, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys all said. I definitely think, as presently constructed, the Sixers would not be able to win a championship with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, unless they, perfectly build around them. But I'm also in the camp of trading Embiid if you have to get rid of one of those two. I think Embiid is the better player, but I think he's just way too injury prone for my liking. And I think in this day and age, building around a center to win a championship is much harder than a guard or a forward. And I think Ben Simmons is one of the perfect players to build around, because he's one of the easiest ones to do. I think this team kind of messed up by giving these big contracts to Tobias Harris and Al Horford. It's going to be tough trading Horford. I think they can still trade Harris if they want to, but Horford is just aging. He's 34, making $37 million, somewhere around that. So it's going to be tough to trade Horford. But I think if they do improve their bench, because I don't think like their bench is like that great, like Raul Neto and like Alec Burks, like that's their bench. Like I don't really think like that's anything too great. And I think losing JJ Redick, like they did lose Jimmy Butler, but I think JJ Redick was also equally as big of a loss, since in order to build around Ben or Embiid, you need to have shooters around them, and losing Redick was just like really hurt them. So I think I think like obviously they can't sign Joe Harris, but like if they did have the money, Joe Harris would be like a perfect player for them to sign. And they need to trade for shooting and get better depth. But it will be interesting to see what Doc Rivers does with this team.
Okay, before we move on to the Raptors, I'd like to say one last thing. Dorian mentioned that they could trade for he's on the Kings, I forgot his name, Buddy Hield. And I feel like if they could trade Tobias Harris for Buddy Hield, they will release off I think like, was it $7 million difference in their contracts? So they would make $7 million and they would get a 3-point shooter. So if the Kings would agree to that, I don't know. Maybe if they don't, you can add some picks. I don't know if Sixers fans would do that trade, but I think it would be a pretty good trade, as Tobias Harris was very underwhelming in this playoffs. But moving on to the Raptors. So they have free agents expiring. So they have contracts expiring in this free agency for Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, Fred VanVleet, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Chris Boucher, Malcolm Miller, Stanley Johnson, and O'Shea Brissett. I feel like out of those players, they need to bring back Fred VanVleet 100%. He is a great point guard. He can shoot the three. He can play defense. He can play make. He can finish. He'll go up to your center and score a layup on him. He needs to be somebody they need to re-sign. They have about $20 million in cap space this offseason, so they should use that on him. And they should try, if they cannot get Fred VanVleet, to go for Montrezl Harrell. He's also very young. He'll probably be wanting under $20 million, around there. And if they can't get Montrezl Harrell, I think they should go for Serge Ibaka. And they also have a very late pick in this draft class at 29th. They just came off a great season in the regular season with the second best record in the league, winning 53 games. And Pascal Siakam had a very terrible playoffs. What do you guys think about that, Darian?
I think for the Raptors, it's pretty evident where they need to go. I think they keep Siakam. I don't think they should explore trading him at all. I think Lowry is someone they should explore his value. I don't think they should trade him, but he is aging, and if they can get a trade for him this offseason, I think it would be a good move for them, if it's a good trade, obviously. And they should let Marc Gasol walk. I think he wants to go to Spain, wherever he wants to go. He's old. He's really expensive. He costed us, I think, $25 million. And, yeah, we should let him walk. And I think we bring back Fred or Ibaka, or if we're bringing back both of them, we get Ibaka on a one-year deal. Fred is obviously prioritized, but we need to keep the cap room open for Giannis in 2021, because we know that Toronto wants to make a serious and realistic run at Giannis, and you're going to need probably around 35 to 40 million if you wanted to get Giannis open for that year. So Giannis is probably going to want a max. He's definitely going to want a max. So you need to keep that open. So you can't have Ibaka and Fred VanVleet. And I don't think Ibaka wants to sign 1 year. I think Fred VanVleet's probably going to chase a bag. Although he loves Toronto, I think he can go to a team like New York. I don't know if he wants to. Toronto's probably a better option for him, but he can get more money. Montrez, I don't think will take a pay cut to go to Toronto. I think he's either going to stay on the Clippers for that same amount of money, or he's going to go to a lottery team or like a mid-tier team for a bigger contract. But yeah, Suhas, what do you think about the Raptors?
As a Heat fan, I kind of see similarities between us and the Raptors, man. I think Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry are similar. I think Jimmy Butler is a better player, but I think like as far as like how they impact their team, I think they're like very similar. Bam and Pascal are similar as well. But I think one thing that separates the Heat with the Raptors is I don't think the Raptors have like that young guy that's coming through. Like they have like good young pieces. Like don't get me wrong, they have like Chris Boucher and all of them, but like they don't have they didn't draft like a rookie or anything, or like have like a young guy that's gonna be like up next, like
OG Anunoby.
That is true. OG Anunoby is good too. But I think that the Raptors have their main focus is to re-sign Fred VanVleet this year. I don't know if I think Fred's gonna probably chase the bag. They are I don't know if getting rid of Marc Gasol since he's like moving to Spain. I don't know if that terminates his contract. I think they still might have to pay him, but I'm not really too sure about how all that works. But Ibaka and VanVleet are going to be the key pieces. They're probably just going to run it back next year. And I think they're going to be another team that's going to be on that 2021 free agency class watch. Tejas, what do you think?
Before I talk about the Raptors offseason, I just want to say they had a terrific season this year. After being considered as maybe a 7th or 8th seed, or maybe even not even making the playoffs. They won 53 games, which is incredible, and were the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference with teams like the Celtics, Heat, Sixers, and the Bucks. So Really good job to the Raptors. And of course, they lost to the Celtics in the second round. And partly that's because Pascal Siakam did not reach expectations. But for the offseason, I think if you want to be in the Giannis sweepstakes, there's only one move, and that is letting Ibaka and Van Vliet go. Or maybe just sign Ibaka on a 1-year deal and get ready to sign Giannis and go over the luxury tax. Because Van Vliet is going to chase a bag. He's probably going to want around $20 million plus. And I think there's going to be some lucrative team like the Knicks or some other team that's going to want him and give him the bag. As much as I know he likes Toronto, he's going to go to like a different team, I think. And for the Raptors, I think they're going to have to make that sacrifice if they really want to chase after Giannis and not allow teams like the Heat, the Mavericks, or even the Warriors to try and go sign him. This is the sacrifice they have to make, and this is one of the main options I think they have to do. Hudson, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, this is one of the worst free agency classes. So considering point guards, Fred VanVleet is the best, and behind him is Dragic. And like you were saying, if they want to compete for Giannis, what they have to do is let Ibaka and VanVleet go. VanVleet is going to want to get paid. Like you said, they might have to – if they really, really, really want to keep Ibaka that bad, they may have to give him like a small 1-year deal. But the Knicks are favored to get Freddie. They're going to be offering $20 million plus, but I don't know how that's going to turn out because there was rumors like 2 days ago on how they're going to give Freddie like $1 million plus. And then like now a couple hours ago saying that they're going to try to get Westbrook or Chris Paul or Melo. So I don't know how that's going to be, but they had a great season from losing finals MVP, they won the finals. They got their finals MVP in Kawhi, and then he left them because he was on the last year of his contract or signed a 1-year deal, whatever it was. And everyone thought they weren't going to make the playoffs, and here they are competing they were the 2 seed. So that's pretty crazy. So props to them. And I think David has to say a quick thing.
So as you and Tejas said about letting Fred VanVleet and Ibaka walk, I think they can only let Ibaka walk and sign VanVleet and still have money for Giannis. Because if they do sign VanVleet to a $20 million a year deal in 2021 free agency class, they would still have $43 million in cap space. That would be more. That would be enough to sign Giannis.
I just want to make this quick point. Who would your center be then if you didn't sign Ibaka? You're probably letting Gasol walk anyways.
Well, that's a matter for the future. We'll see then.
I'd rather Giannis in the center.
Wow, yeah. Moving on, next up, or last but not least, actually, we have the Wizards, and this team wasn't too great. They finished... they finished 9th or 10th, I should say, actually. And this team somehow managed to drop below the Hornets. That might not sound that crazy, but the Hornets didn't even make the bubble. So the Hornets ended up with a better record than the team that actually made the bubble. So they proved that they were that bad. And this year they have the 9th pick in the draft. Bradley Beal is literally carrying them on that back. I'm going to be honest. I have no idea where John Wall is. I don't know where he is. He's coming off like a torn ACL. I don't know if he's going to be back this next season or something. But if he is, that's great for them. They've, like I said, 9th pick in the draft. So that could be that could give them a franchise player. But still, I think basically with a lot of teams here, they have a lot of work to do. And what do you think about that, David?
As you said, how they have the 9th pick in the draft. they need to strengthen that small forward spot. They don't need like a center or a point guard or a shooting guard, as they have John Wall, Thomas Bryant, and Bradley Beal. At that small forward position, they could pick up Aaron Naismith. He averaged 52% on 8 takes a game in college from three-pointer. That would be a lethal three-point shooter, as that percentage would make him, like, if he kept it up, would make him one of the best three-point shooters in the league. So if they could pick him up, add more scoring, and I'm pretty sure he's actually a pretty elite defender, that would be a good fit for them. What do you think, Dorian?
I don't think Wizards need another wing player. I think they need a center. I don't think Thomas Bryant is doing it. I don't think they need John Wall, Bradley Beal, and another wing player. All Washington can do right now is hope that John Wall is fine. And I think they can trade some of their young players for a center. I think their ninth pick, Bryant, Troy Brown, Jerome, and Ish Smith could be enough to get Vucevic and maybe Orlando's 15th overall pick. And then you can have John Wall, Bradley Beal, Vucevic, and block up the 5 to 6 seed in the East. What do you think, Suhas?
I think the Wizards, well, first of all, I think John Wall is coming back this year. He said in an interview that he feels like 100% or 120% ready. And I think so he's going to come back this year or next year. And I think they're getting rid of Jan Mahimi's contract. So his $15 million is off the book. Re-signing Davis Bertans is going to be a very, very big, thing on the checklist for them to do, because he stretches the floor out like no other. So when John Wall is kicking it out to him, they need that three-point shooter. I thought Rui Hachimura was coming into the last year's draft. He was my favorite player, and he actually had a really great season. So I think having him at that 3-4 position is gonna also be very critical for them in the draft. I kind of agree with what Darian and David said. Obviously they don't have that true wing. Hachimura can play the 4. I don't really think he's a 3. So drafting a wing might be something that they should think about. But I think Thomas Bryant, he's good, but I don't think his defense is good enough for that starting center position. So it's gonna be very interesting what they do. Tejas, what do you think?
I'm just gonna say one quick thing about the Wizards. I think they have to rebuild. I know John Wall is coming off as an ACL injury, right? So I think they're just going to have to stockpile on picks. And I think they might have to let Bertans go, because he's going to be, one of the more sought out free agents. So I think, this is a complete rebuild for the Wizards. But besides that, I really don't see anything else for them.
All right, so if that's all the teams, we can close out this episode right now. Just a reminder, we're going to be doing the Western Conference teams in the next episode. This one actually ran a lot longer than we thought. So the Western Conference might be a little bit more condensed, but it'll still be very good quality. As we said, this is the first episode, so please make sure to follow us on the socials. Hudson, you want to tell them what our Instagram and YouTube are so they can subscribe?
They'll all be linked in bio.
All right, yeah, so they'll be linked in the bio. So hit up the description, hit up the bio, and we'll see you all next episode. Thanks for tuning in.